documents, they can't attach documents larger than certain sizes.
No, we don't have any such limits.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, the purpose of this one is really to give you the end-to-end demo, right? I'm not going to show you all the functionality and spoil the fun, but the idea is we walk through the job applications, we kind of got a sense of how to scroll through the, how to review a job application, take them through the various steps. There are different things that allow you to, toggle between job applications and prospects. In this case, there were no prospects, but imagine you had, so then you could also go and say, hey, who are the people who are referred? And these people haven't really applied. You can follow up with them. You can send them a reminder email. You can ask them to apply. That's kind of how that works. And by default, we decided not to show unconfirmed job applications. I'm trying to see. But as you can see from the filter options here, right, if you want to look at the unconfirmed job applications, you can. So sometimes you may want to do that because we provide some override mechanism. You can go in and confirm the job application on that behalf. Those are some back-end functions really. So that.
From a correspondence perspective, is there a way to send a reminder or just a note out to those unconfirmed applicants?
Yes, built in. So you can just click a button that says, I want to send a reminder. They'll send a reminder. The actual message itself is configurable. So I'm not going to go through all of the details. Let me just give you the high-level overview of the job requisition. So the job requisition, holds all of the information that's required to market the job, right? So this is really what we use to then make a job posting on the career site. This one is fully completed. What that means is you drafted the application, you sent it for approval. Once it was approved, you basically added like the multimedia content that you wanted. You added you changed the job description. It depends on the workflow that the company chooses to deploy. But you made all of that, and then when it's ready for publishing, you go ahead and publish it. Actually, let me do that. Let me walk you through a draft application so it's clear. So this is a draft application, right? So you'll see it still has all of the sections, the structural information, organization, location, job family, there's a business unit, department, all of the information that you may want to capture can be captured here. The posting description. And once you're ready to apply, you can once you're ready to submit the job requisition, you go ahead and submit the job requisition for approval, and then it goes in for approval, and once it's approved, you have a couple of other tabs that are ready for you to use. I'll show you what that looks like. So after a requisition has been approved, you can still go ahead and make some changes, right? You can say, there's an image or a video that I think makes sense for this requisition. You can add that in the requisition. You can make changes like selecting the right employer description or the team description also. You don't have to do any of this. You can default everything from what is known as the requisition template. So if you define your requisition template correctly, all of the information that you ever require for your requisition is automatically defaulted. The only thing you have to do is find it once it's approved, go in and publish the job. Yep.
At this point, is eQuest and Broadbean available in terms of job board aggregators?
Yep. And so in terms of job distribution, so those are the two partner categories that we have enabled in 18p, right? So background check vendors is the first one, where HireRight is the partner. The second category is job distribution, where we have the vendor that will be available as of 18p is eQuest. We're working with other partners as well. believe, telemetry, and one more. And we are working with them for job distribution. But eQuest is available as of today. Yes, as of today, eQuest is available.
Karthik, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, what do you mean by these vendors? Do we need to strike a deal with these folks, or it is automatically available?
So, okay, it's a good question. So again, this strategy has not changed, right? With ORC. In general, Oracle, we don't OEM stuff, right? So our partner strategy is we will do the integration, right? So these are productized integrations. What that means is we have specific touch points within the application where we have decided that this is how our application will call out the eQuest, and conversely, this is the mechanism by which eQuest can send us data. So that's kind of the contract that we work out. And we also give them real estate within our application where a particular vendor can surface something that is meaningful. So for example, if you look at eQuest as a job distributor, when you go to publish a job, you're posting to the internal site and the external site, which is really what belongs to us. And then in the same screen, we basically show you the options that you have when it comes to posting via the job distributor, which is eQuest. So that's kind of what we work out, right? We are not doing any of the commercials, right? So it's up to the customer to figure out if eQuest is the right partner for them and then have the agreement. We can provide more details on sort of the commercials for some of these partners, not all, but some of these partners, I believe there are some favorable commercials that have been worked out, right? For eQuest, I think there are 6 or 7 job boards. I forget. Do you know the number? I can look it up. We cover that again in depth, right? When I cover the partner category, I'll tell you what the agreement is. For eQuest, for example, there are 6 or 7 job boards that they basically provide for free, as in eQuest will not charge the customer anything for those posting to those job boards. Okay. And similarly, we have something for resume parsing integration, which we'll again cover later, right? There are some favorable commercials for the customer where they can use the resume parser for a certain volume, right, without paying anything.
But they still have to have a service agreement and contract with eQuest.
Correct.
Can I jump back to the background check
Yeah.
vendor? And will the results be returned to the system, to ORC, or not?
Yes. So the question is, for the background check vendor, are the results being returned to Oracle Recruiting or not? Yes. So there are some results that are sent back directly to us, which we will surface within our UI. And then for most of the details, for the detailed report itself, it'll be a punch-out link.
This specific UI is recruiter view only, right? And then hiring managers have
This particular view.
That be security.
No, it's just based on It's just based on you can control what you can show and based on security, but there's only one view really, right? So there are some security privileges that control what you can and cannot do.
Yeah, page composer. You can use page composer.
Yeah, you can use page composer to specialize it. Yeah.
Karthik,
Mm-hmm.
a question. So the question is, you told about the requisition template auto-populating from the requisition template, right? The requisition that can populate all the information. What happens in case if the job profile isn't integrated from core HR to the requisition template itself, so that you're not updating the job description in multiple places, so that the flow can happen right from core HR up to the requisition template and gets posted?
Yeah. If you can hold that just thought in your mind for a little bit, I'm going to get to that right after I finish the demo. I'm going to talk about how this works with all the other HCM constructs, so it will probably make sense, right? So the core of this, right, what I wanted to cover really is talk about requisition creation. So we have, actually, let me start that, let me do that so it's clear. So the way the requisition creation works, right, you go, we have what is known as the a two-step creation process that we support. So again, you can set it up however it makes sense for that particular organization. There are two models we support. In one of the models, as a hiring manager, you can simply fill out the information that is requested here. Right? You say, hey, this is the recruiting type. So imagine, the basic information that a hiring manager should know, right? Is this a professional hire or is it like an executive hire, something, right? Hourly, they would know that. And then where they are hiring, typically the locations. And then they can select the requisition template. I don't know if requisition templates are being set up here.
One template.
Huh?
There should be one template.
Okay. Okay, I'll try to fix this for when I'm doing the actual requisition module. But the idea really is you select the recruiting type, the primary location, and then the list of templates that will be shown is narrowed down based on that, right? So that's kind of the context dimensions, if you will. So it'll say, okay, these are all the rec templates that match professional and United States, right? It could even be more granular. You could pick something in California or Virginia, whatever you feel like. And then the requisition templates will be filtered based on that. There might only be one, or there might be a few that match, and then you can pick the right requisition template. Once you pick the requisition template, pretty much, like I said, depending on how the requisition template has been set up, and that again, we provide all the flexibility to the customer. If they have set it up, so everything is defined. What do I mean by that? All of the information you need to make a job posting, job description, job summary, the employer description, the team description, all of the multimedia content. If all of that has been set up on the template, then they would get automatically populated. In fact, you can even define all the job application questions, the background check packages. All of that can be defined on the requisition, in which case all of them would get defaulted into the requisition, and you can just submit for approval, get it approved, and post.
On the recruiting type dropdown, is that what I can see in the documentation there? That's locked down. Is that the customer cannot add recruiting types to that?
Yeah. So right now, you're right. Good question. Very detailed, but yes, it is locked down. We are looking to open that up. Yeah. So a little more about the two-step creation process. Where I was headed with this is, if you're a hiring manager, this is all you need to do, right? You fill this up, and then an email would get sent to the recruiter saying, hey, the requisition process was initiated by this hiring manager. Go ahead and review it and do whatever you need to. So in some case, again, like I said, if you set it up so that all the information flows through from hiring manager, perhaps the recruiter has nothing to do, right? However, in cases where recruiter has to go in and maybe fill out some fields or make some changes, they can do that. And then if the business process requirement is that the recruiter needs to submit for approval, then they would do that. Then the recruiter would submit for approval and complete the rest of the steps, right, which is posting the job and all of that. So that's one process, if you will. The second thing you can do is you can basically say, you know what, in my organization, it's actually more of a self-service where, like Oracle, right? We at Oracle, we do everything for when it comes to creating a requisition, right? We create the requisition, we have to send it for approval, and really the recruiters really only provide kind of sourcing support for us, right? Not for doing all of these administrative tasks. In that model, you can also configure the system so that that single person, be it the hiring manager or the recruiter, does everything into it. So there is flexibility both ways. You can either split the model where one person does the first part, and then the second person, the recruiter, does the rest, or you can have a model where a single person, a hiring manager or a recruiter, does everything into it. All controlled through permissions, again, privileges.
Is this all seated, or the customers can add new things?
On this particular page, I believe there is no support for DFFs. This is what is called as the quick create. But when you go to the full one, the next step, which is the full creation, we have DFFs. Yeah. Yes?
Can you use both models? Can you have both models turned on, the split one and the single person?
Yes, you can. Yeah, like I said, it's really tied to the role more than anything else. So, in a particular role would have just one of the privileges, and then a different population could have both.
Are there other
Mhm.
an assistant, a collaborator, or someone that can also be added? Okay.
Yeah, so we talk about that. So this is the creation process, right? So if I go through and finish this, I will get to the next screen, right, which would look like this. Right, this is a draft requisition. So this is where I would land, and then you will see, you have the hiring team where you can have collaborators, and you can modify the rest of the fields. And this is where you could add the DFFs. Okay.
If they were available.
Yeah, if they were configured, yeah. The DFF would show up, in fact, right here. There's a context segment that shows up here, where if you have set up DFFs and you select the right context, then you would have additional fields. So that's the creation process. So if you go through it, you start with the requisition creation. Depending on how you set it up, you would either do a two-step creation or a single-step creation. Start with the requisition template, get to the requisition. Once the requisition is all created, again, it's very, very exhaustive in terms of what you can add to a requisition, and you can use DFFs to extend it. Like I said, you can have job application questions. You can have different questionnaires for your internal versus external. You can add interview feedback questionnaires. You can add generic attachments. This is just a placeholder, really. The attachments don't go anywhere. It's just a way to collect more information, store more information on the requisition. And background screening packages. And then in the future, we're also looking to add assessments. When assessments come in, the assessment packages can also be stored both on the rec template as well as on the requisition. So once you have set up all of this, like the next step, obvious step, is getting it into approval. For approval, we use the business BPM approval process, which means you can configure it however you wish. Out of the box, we do like a line managers and line managers, line managers, manager, and their managers approval, two-level approval. Okay, so then you're done with that, you submit it. The last step really here is posting, right? So this is really the, once it's approved and you're satisfied with all of the content, it's really a question of posting it to the external or internal sites. And it's just a flag. This is all you control. You simply say, hey, do you wanted to post it only to internal, only to external, to both, and then when you want it, when the posting to start. You can schedule it either from now or in the future. Just a tip, even though we say from now, technically it's not real time. So there is still a lag between when you post it and when it will be available. That's controlled by a scheduler job that you can choose to run, we say, every 10 minutes. So there might be a 10-minute lag between when you post it and when it's available on the site. And the same goes for unposting. When you unpost it, it's not going to be instantaneous. The other point I wanted to make is with respect to what are these visibility control. When you say a job is visible to external candidates, actually let me play it the other way. If you're an external candidate on their external career site, you can only find jobs that are posted to that have been made available to external candidates. Okay, that's one. If you are an internal candidate, meaning an employee going to that other site, I showed you earlier, you can actually see both jobs, external jobs and internal jobs. The reason for that is you may want to refer somebody to an external job. So the actions that you can take are different. If it's only an external job, then you will not be allowed to apply, but you'll be allowed to refer, right? And if it's both an internal and external, then you can both refer and apply. So the actions are different, but the visibility, you have access to both kinds of jobs. Okay, so we talked about external candidate experience, we talked about the internal candidate experience, how people would apply to jobs, we covered job applications, job requisition. Now we get to the offer stage. So again, the way you get into the offer is from the job application. So there is in the selection process, you made the decision to say, I want to make Julie an offer, and you go and click on create offer. Once you click on create offer, you would pretty much be taken to the job offer creation page. It kind of looks like this. This is the draft offer that's already been set up. Again, philosophically, the way to think about offers is it's very closely integrated with core HR. And the idea really is what we want to do is take this offer and make it easier to make them a new hire. So we want to capture all of the information that would make sense to make them a new hire. So what does it really mean? It boils down to, if you think about the new person hire, right, that you typically make on the other side on core HR, they have this construct called assignment. Right? You would have to create a job assignment, and then there's a bunch of information that you need in order to create a successful job assignment. So we are doing that at the offer stage itself. It's the same construct. We call it something else. It's an offer assignment, but the idea behind that is very similar. So that's why you will see, in fact, like this UI that you will see over here is effectively the same UI you would see in the new person screen when you're making them a worker. So there are two parts to it. So one you're setting up the job assignment information. So things like you're selecting the job, the grade, the department, location, all of the other information that's required. The second part is the compensation, the salary information. So you would enter the salary, and then other compensation if that's eligible for that candidate, you would enter all the other compensation. So those are the constructs of the offer. And again, I want to repeat, we are not creating a new data model for offers. It is the same thing that you do. The same way you would make a salary adjustment for an employee is how you select the salary for when creating the offer. In fact, like I said, I can't stress that enough. It's the exact same UI that is used for defining your job and salary information. So once you set this up, there is some other information that's specific. If you look at the information that is specific to recruiting, and I don't want to, I'm probably not going to cover this a lot. This is an 18A version that does offer letters a little differently. So I'm not going to talk about this. Instead, I'm going to talk about the 18B version, which is more relevant. So the thing that you do is you select what is known as an offer letter template. The offer letter template is, again, it's a set of offer letters. We cover that in detail, but the idea behind that is when you're constructing an offer, once you have set up the job, all the job information, job assignment data, and you have set up all of the salary data, you would select the offer template and say, okay, this is the offer template I want to choose for sending out the offer. And then the offer letter is dynamically generated using the offer letter and all of the information that you have on the offer. Okay. The offer letter template itself is extremely flexible and powerful. Behind the scenes, it uses the Oracle BI Publisher as the backend. So it's flexible in terms of how you can construct it. You can have lots of if-then business logic, directly in the template. You can use all of the job offer data. I don't know, there are hundreds of fields that you can use in the job offer template, right? You can use that directly in. So anything that is there available on the offer is also available to you within the job offer letter itself, template itself. So at the end of it, you can get a picture perfect letter created that you can embed within the job offer that you send out to the candidates, like the e-offer that you send out. The candidates can preview that within the page that they see. They can accept it, or they can download it, right, as a PDF, wet sign it, send it over, however they want to do it.
Karthik,
Yeah.
is the offer letter stored against the person record in the application?
So once this is all done, so right now the offer letter is against the offer, right? If the person accepts the offer and they become an actual worker, then that offer, then the offer letter will be transferred over to their document of records. Is that your question?
Yes, so will that be done
Yes.
under the OR?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the question was where does the offer letter go and stay once the candidate becomes an employee? Karthik answered for it.
So that will be a manual process, right? The candidate replies back with a signed offer letter, and the PDF or attachment is stored into the document of records.
No. So what happens is, okay, I won't go through the reg sign is a different thing. I just said it, but let me just talk about maybe the more optimal process, right? So they would get an email with a secure link saying, here's your offer. The candidate would click on the email. Then they would get like a web page where they have the entire offer presented to them, okay, including the offer letter. They would, at the end of it, they would have an accept block where they'll say, hey, whatever, so like our own e-signature block, if you will, where they'll be asked to accept. They have to enter the name and then enter accept. If they do that, behind the scenes, we capture their IP address, the time at which they recorded this acceptance, and that is the PDF file that is stored and transferred over to DOR automatically once they become a worker. Okay? Does that make sense? So I'm just showing you what the actual editing of the assignment would look like. As you can imagine, right? It's fairly it's somewhat sophisticated because a lot of information is dependent on the legal employer. The first thing to do is to select the legal employer. Once you select the legal employer, a bunch of actions would show up. This is again contextual. In this particular case, since this is a new candidate that we are hiring, the only action that makes sense is add pending worker. Imagine you were hiring an internal employee, then the actions would be different, right? You wouldn't see an add pending worker. You could be a global transfer or something else, right? So the actions are contextual based on the worker type, and then the legal employer will determine many things in the assignment. So then you pick the business unit, job, grade, department, location, all of those. The reason it's structured this way is, some of them are dependent on the business unit. That's why you pick the business unit first, and then you have the job, grade, department, location that you select. Once you're happy with the job assignment information, you would go. You can enter the salary information, right? Salary information, like I said, there are two parts to it: the basic salary and then the other compensation. Again, you select the salary basis. The salary basis will determine things like the salary range, all of that. Again, we follow the same rules that have been set up in the compensation model. We haven't defined anything new for recruiting. Whatever rules have been set up in the compensation side, we honor that. And then in terms of the other comp, this is based on the profile eligibility rules. So depending on whether or not these compensation types are eligible for this particular role, you would get the appropriate selections available. So as you can see over here, right, when I go into award compensation, these are all the various plan types that are available to me. I can set up a relocation bonus, package, sign-on bonus, or tuition reimbursement. These are the choices.
Karthik, if you know that a job is specific to a department or a business unit upfront when you create a requisition, would you be able to plug in the department, business unit upfront so that you don't have to do at the time of offer? Yeah, the question is, are there more defaulting of business unit and departments in the offer so you don't have to manually enter it? The answer is yes. Like I said, I think this was just a quick overview session. I didn't go into all of the details, but if they're being set up on the requisition, a lot of that's why when I showed you the requisition, I showed you all of this information that can be captured. If it is captured, they will be defaulted into the offer.
So I have a question here, more related to personalization.
Yeah.
So since you said that these are the pages coming out from the core pages, like compensation and everything, but during the hire, if I don't want to see the other compensation which actually lays down from your individual compensation program setup. So can I personalize it here and not get that affected in the other pages in core HR?
yeah, the question is since I said these UIs are the same UIs that you see in other places, is there a way to customize this page so that I can hide some sections here but not affect the other, the core HR or the compensation module? Yeah, I guess those are kind of details, but the answer is yes, you can modify it here. I was talking really about the underlying UI of that particular element, but the page is, you can, at the page level, you can customize what sections that show up on the individual pages without impacting the rest of the UIs. Specific to that. Yeah. Okay, so that covers offers. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the next three modules, but I'll just give you a quick flying through of these, right? So the next set are what we call as the sourcing related modules, right? As you can imagine, we have a unified candidate search. So this is a Google-like search that allows you to search for candidates, both internal and external. You can do it from one place. Unfortunately, the data that we have is pretty poor, so you can't see many of that. It's not very meaningful. But the idea is it's similar to what we saw on the requisition side. Now it's on the candidates. Basic keyword search followed by faceted search, including facet counts. There is a bunch of facets here: location, degrees, companies, years of experience. Once you find candidates, what you can do is you can, there's a list of actions that are available on all the candidates. You'll see it's very consistent across many other places where you find candidates. When I looked at a job application, I showed you a bunch of actions. Not surprisingly, you'll see very similar actions here as well. So if I look at this candidate, the list of actions here are, you can add them to a job requisition, you can add them to a candidate pool, you can send them an email, you can log an interaction. So those are the actions that are available. There are bulk actions as well. Yep.
Does it search within the attachments?
Yeah, the question is in terms of search, what does it search? So high level, in terms of what keyword search does, it searches your profile information, right? The education, the work experience, all of that. It also searches the resume attachment. So not all attachments, but only the one that is your resume. So that's with respect to search. Then there's a concept of candidate pools. What candidate pools are is, it's a very generic construct. We've left it very flexible. The idea behind that is, think of it as a folder with a workflow behind it, right? So we don't ship anything out of the box. It's not seeded. Out of the box, this is going to be empty. As a customer, you can go and say, these are the pools that I want to create. There are two types of pools. There are shared pools and there are private pools. Private pools are only available to that particular owner. So a recruiter can say, hey, this is just for me. I'm organizing candidates that I want to keep in touch with. We don't care, they can use it however they see fit. Shared pools is, for a group, right? They can say, hey, this set of recruiters, we want to share candidates because, we're looking for similar roles all the time. Maybe we can share the people that we find and we can, keep them engaged and use them at the appropriate time. So those are the two models that are supported. You can have a workflow that is tied to a candidate pool. The workflow is very similar to the workflow we saw for job applications, except that it can be different, right? It doesn't have the same names in terms of the phases and states. So let me quickly show you an example. So in this case, you see these are all of the candidates that you're tracking under the HCM candidates. And so all of them are in the not contacted view, right? That's your first phase and state. But you know what? You've probably called Anita and you've decided that she has said, you basically decide that this person meets qualification, you can keep them in the meets qualification. Again, all of the actual workflow you can configure however the customer can configure it however they see fit. We ship something out of the box, but you can change that. Starting with, that one actually is more of a roadmap, that's 18C. Okay, so let me rephrase. So the candidate pool workflow as of 18B is hardwired, right? As of 18B, the candidate workflow is hardwired. With the next release, 18C, you will be able to configure that. There's a bunch of filters. There's another consistency thing, right? Theme that you will see across the board. Almost all of our list views have this filter panel that's available, and obviously the set of filters that are available in each screen varies from object to object. But broadly speaking, you'd at least be familiar with the model that we have used. There's a bunch of fields that are available. There is a gear icon at the top right that allows you to add more fields if you choose to do so. So that's pools. And finally, campaigns. So with respect to campaigns, the only channel we support right now is email. We're looking at adding more channels, but we support email marketing. And with respect to the types of campaigns you can run, there are 3 types of campaigns that we support out of the box. The first one is campaigns that are targeted to get candidates to apply to a job. The second one is referral, targeting employees and having them refer candidates for a job or a set of roles. And the third one is a very generic marketing tool, a marketing campaign type. We think it's useful for getting people to respond to an event, like a recruiting event you might have. So it's kind of demand gen kind of thing where you can say, hey, we have this recruiting event next week in Reston. You can come and meet the team and see what projects they're working on and so on, and get them to respond to that. So the reason they are different, and we'll get into each of the details, is there are some really, really subtle differences in terms of the content, that what content you can tailor for each of these emails. Otherwise, they're very similar. What is the benefit of running the campaigns from our module? For one, I think there's a lot of things that we provide out of the box. You have the concept of goals, where you can set high-level goals for a campaign. An example is if you are doing a referral campaigns, rather than simply setting a referral, maybe upfront you want to decide, hey, the reason I want to do this referral is this campaign, I'll call this campaign successful if I can get 1,000 referrals or 100 referrals, whatever it is, right? So you can set that goal upfront, and you can send it out, right, to an audience and see how is it performing. And so you have some way of gauging how well you're doing towards that goal. So we track the goal. We also do some basic email metrics, right? Basic email metrics. We track how many people was this email sent to, how many opened them, how many clicked on them, did some of the emails did some of the emails bounce, how many unsubscribed, and so on. So in terms of setting up the email itself, in terms of setting up the campaign itself, there are 2 basic steps. The first thing is actually 3 steps. The first thing, you set up all of the campaign metadata. What type of campaign is it? What's the goal? You define that. Who the owners of the campaign are. Then you get to define the actual email that you want to send out. So there is always a primary email that you send out. In this case, it's an invitation to apply. So let's look at what that invitation looks like. So we provide this WYSIWYG editor that allows you to easily create or modify a HTML email. You don't need to know any HTML coding. It's very user-friendly. I'll show you. This is an already completed campaign, so I'm not able to edit it, but I'll show you how to do that. So as you can see, it's optimized for the mobile phone. You can have an image, you can have text, you can have a job widget, which is kind of dynamically injected into the email when it gets sent out. Once you have designed your email, you select your audience. You basically decide who do I want to send this out to, or who do I want to send this out to. In this case, the audience filter was I want to send it out to everyone in Atlanta. There were only 7 people who qualified, so it just goes out to 7 people. So that's it, 3 steps. Set up your metadata for the campaign, you design your email, and then your audience, and you schedule it. So here is what the actual email editor looks like. Like I said, you just click and then change the properties. It's really as simple as that. So in this case, it's the email. There are a few widgets, so let me show you just the collection of widgets, right? So these are all the things you can drop into your email. So you can have a paragraph, an image, a headline. The job list is a specialized widget where it dynamically injects the job depending on the jobs that you've set up on the campaign. So you can associate job requisitions with the campaign, and then they would automatically get injected into the email. And then the last one is those buttons. These buttons are call to action buttons. So we talked about the email being sent out for a recruiting event. Over there, you may want to have RSVP buttons that say, yes, I will attend, no, I will not attend. So that's where this button comes in useful. So you can say, these are the labels, and this is what I want to track, right? You can basically track how many people said yes, how many people said no, and then you can also say which one should really contribute to my goal, right? We talked about goals where you said my campaign goal is X, right? I want 100 people at least to come to this event. Then you can go and say, okay, I will create a button that says yes, I will attend, and then say this yes, I will attend should actually contribute towards my goal of 100. Okay.
When you create these campaigns, or is it also identifying that as a source, like when they do apply to your job, so that shows that as the source of their post?
Yeah, the question is how does this tie into source tracking? Again, we talk about it in more detail when we talk about source tracking, but yeah, that's an excellent question. It does track back to source tracking. Anything that we send out through campaigns, we track, and we can track the campaign code, the medium that was used. In this case, it was email, and then in case it was a referral campaign, we also track not only the fact that this was part of a referral marketing campaign, but we can also track which person which employee referred a person to the job, right? So it's kind of all end-to-end tracking.
Can there be links embedded in that correspondence that actually takes them to the requisition?
Yes, yeah, that's what the job widget is for. Yeah, exactly.
Quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Since the campaigns are email-based,
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much assuming that the candidates already or prospects are already in the recruiting system. I mean, how would we know? How does it know email is a passive candidates? Like, this isn't really reaching passive candidates unless somebody, an employee, refers somebody.
Yeah, so the question is, since you're only able to send it to people in the database, right, how do we send it out to prospects that we don't even know about? So it's a good question. I'm trying to see how to answer it. So you can bring in the candidates. It depends on how you bring in the candidates, but we need to know about those contacts, if you will, or prospects, if you will. You can bring it in through HDL. That would be one way to do it today. If you have to do it today, we're also thinking of more end-user friendly bulk import mechanisms where you can basically take let's say an Excel spreadsheet of prospects and load them into the system or some other way. But yeah, no matter how we do it, they have to come into the system some way, and that's how we can reach out to them.
So the second part of that is, of course, Facebook integration,
Mm-hmm.
the ability to create social
Social,
media